Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good? What's up? What's happening? What's happening, y'all boys? This is going for the gusto. It's your boy Boom Bam. I'm back at it. I'm with it. Ready to make something shake. Man, I just got back home. I've been out. We had a little work event, so did that and had to get back real quick because I knew I had to drop this video for y'all. So I'm gonna get right into it. Like it's just me today. You know that happens sometimes. It is what it is. But we here and we gonna drop this content. So I'm gonna touch on three things, real quick. I think the first thing we gonna talk about is Hall of Fame. Just a little bit about that. Then we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about some major injuries that now happen in the season and how that can derail certain teams. And thirdly, I want to show some teams some love, like some teams, some one loss teams that ain't nobody really talking about, but we need to talk about these teams, man, because these teams they playing good, so they deserve to be talked about. We don't need to be talking about teams that's playing bad. If your team got 2 losses, including my team, because we got 3 losses. But if your team got 2 losses, we don't need to talk about y'all right now. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna talk about some teams that deserve to be talked about right now. So let's talk about the Hall of Fame. So Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, as y'all may know him, Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode, as y'all may know him. Both of them are, tuned in with Club Shay, my boy Shannon Sharp. So just I saw in both of those conversations, those names came up about should they be in the Hall of Fame. And so the NFL Hall of Fame is like weird sometimes about certain people that get in. It's a lot of people I believe shouldn't get in, but they get in based on being on good teams. Because, like in the Basketball Hall of Fame, it's like if you're on a good team and you played a reasonable role, you're going to be a Hall of Fame. If you won more than 2 championships and you were just, you could have just been a role player, but you played your role real well. A lot of those players make the Hall of Fame. And the Basketball Hall of Fame is the Basketball Hall of Fame. So it's not just NBA. They take into account if you played overseas. They take into account if you played college. They take into account if you played in, high school. Just, I mean, like they don't actually bring those stats up, but they take into account how good of a player you was. The NFL is just the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's only for the pros, right? I'm a guy that thinks you should have at least 3 All Pros to make it inside the Hall of Fame. Now, with that being said, you got to think about this though. 3 All Pros is real. I think you need at least 3 All Pros, 5 Pro Bowls, what I would say. But it's situations where you can't really do that, right? Because it ain't gonna be fit to everybody. Because an All Pro is who you were playing against. If you were in an era full of wide receivers and you a certain wide receiver, you're not gonna get it. But if you don't, like somebody like Larry Fitzgerald who don't got the All Pros, he only got one, but the stats are still equivalent to someone like Marvin Harrison who got the All Pros, you need to put that person in. I don't think you need to take into account the team they played on, the division, the era. I don't think those things matter from the standpoint of Hall of Fame because the era that'll correct itself because you taking into account All Pros. So All Pros is that era, right? The people you're playing against, right? And so I think if you finish your career with 1,400 receiving yards, and the next man got 1,400 receiving yards, but that person got 4 All Pros and you got one, that person may have been better than you, but you were still better than everybody else. So you can get in that way. I think as somebody like Chad Johnson, he was a 2-time All Pro. He was a great player, but he only got 11,000 yards. Like you gotta start to take that stuff into account then when you get to that point because okay, if you're gonna get in, you have to have you had a name, you was a great player, but you got to take into account, man, like when you were playing, like can you say my stats is almost as good as this person and they had these accolades because if you can do that, you can get in. But if you can't do that and you can't get in, so for me, like Marshawn is another one. Like Marshawn had that run with Seattle. Outside of that, outside of that 3-4 year run, he wasn't super elite all the way around, like, to be the Hall of Fame. Now, what I will say about the Hall of Fame is this. To be fair about the Hall, what I'll say is, if a person, like, if someone is already in the Hall, you can't take them out. So if you say, well, my stats match up with this person, as long as that person played in a reasonable, close enough time in your era, like, don't say I'm a wide receiver in 2020 and the guy in 1970 got less yards than me. Okay, that don't matter, because in 1970 they weren't throwing the ball. Like, we understand that. But if it's somebody that you're close to, right? Like, you're close enough with. Like if Marshawn Lynch was to say, I'm close to Adrian Peterson or something like that, which he's not in yards, but let's just say he was. If he was, then I can say, okay, I understand your argument. That's how you get in the Hall. But I think the Hall at this point should get stricter on who gets in and who doesn't, because I think winning the Super Bowl is one thing, but the players that don't win the Super Bowl but make it to the Hall, they can walk up with their head held high saying, I was literally one of the best I was one of the few players that was in the 1%, and I was still elite enough to do my thing. And so I think that's something people just got to take into account when you start talking about the Hall of Fame, when you start thinking about how, like, these players should be evaluated. You see what I'm saying, man? Like, I think it's hard. I think you would have to pull out a list of wide receivers in the Hall and pick and choose and do all this other stuff. But the one thing I know, the argument Chad likes to use for itself, is that he played in a real tough division with great defenses, which is a pure fact. But you can't do that, because the problem is, like, divisions switch every year. So you can have two good teams in your division this year, but the next year they're not so good. So we know the players, we know the Steelers had a great defense, we know Baltimore had a great defense, but we can't definitively say year in and year out what this defense was and take that into account, because everybody else don't get to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what I'll say about the whole Hall of Fame situation. I think Chad, if he gets in, or Marshawn, they'll be third ballots. They're clearly not first ballot Hall of Famers. Second ballot is going to be iffy. But I know as time goes on, for Marshawn, it'll get better because running backs are getting less and less, so his name may come up. But wide receivers are getting more and more, so it's going to be harder for Chad to come up. You see what I'm saying? Because wide receivers are going to have more yards, and then the people in his era will already be in, and then he's going to be in the middle of it. And it'll be the same for Marshawn, which running backs are going to be getting less and less carries. Well, as of the way it's going right now. And so his stats will look better to the people in the future, but to his contemporaries that's already in, he don't got the stats of LT or Marshall Faulk or running backs deserve to be in the Hall. Like Derrick Henry, we know is gonna be in the Hall when it's all said and done for him. So I'm a transition, right? Okay, so let's transition to major injuries that's happening in the league. The obvious one is Aaron Rodgers. We talked enough about the Jets to know what that does, and that's just here or there. But let's talk about some, like, in the weeds football injuries that I think are going to affect teams. I think Trayvon Diggs is affecting the Dallas Cowboys right now. Losing your all-pro corner, even though a lot of people, including even Cowboys fans, is like, he's giving up a lot of yards. But those turnovers, giving your team a short field, that we see that has been helping that team. Because without that, when Dallas don't get a short field, they don't look anywhere near the team they're supposed to be, right? And so when you're making them drive the length of the field, without those turnovers that he creates, or just the even thought of creating it, like, that is affecting that team. So I think that's a major injury that could be costly down the season, because sometimes, you go out there on defense and you're looking for that big turnover. You're like, man, this one right here might be the one. If we get this one, you know what I'm saying? We might be cooking with grease, but you got to get it. So I think that's a big injury. I think one that's going under the radar that people aren't talking about is Matt Milano for the Buffalo Bills at middle linebacker. I think Matt Milano, as far as a middle backer goes, I would say, yeah, I'll say that. Matt Milano right now is the second best middle backer in all of football, right? So you got Fred Warner at the top, you got Matt Milano back right after that. And Matt Milano might be a little better than Fred Warner in pass coverage, maybe just a little bit. But they're real close. And I of course I got Fred Warner number one, but Matt Milano's a huge loss. He calls the plays for the defense. He's the captain on the field. He gets in passing lanes. He's real agile. He's long. He's physical. He was the driving force of that Buffalo defense. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh man, bro, boom man, you tripping?" Like they got Josh Allen and all that. Yeah, but people got to understand these defenses. A defense losing their captain or signal caller on the field is the same as losing your quarterback. He's the person that gets that call from the sideline and say, "Hey man, we in this, we doing all that. Let's get right." And then when the opposing quarterback say, "Hey, we all the button, we doing that," he gonna come back and we doing this. And so losing that, it's not only just his ability on the field. I made myself laugh for half the stuff I've been doing. But look, it's literally not just his ability on the field. It's his ability to get everybody where they need to be, having that signal caller, having that strong voice, having that, man, we're here. Like we about to play today. Losing that, man, that's a tough loss for Buffalo. On top of that, Buffalo already lost Tre'Davious White, who's their lockdown corner. And I feel so bad for him, man, because Tre'Davious White, man, he had every time he has a great season, then he comes off that great season and then has a season where he's super injured, and I just don't know, man. I feel bad for him because he's a great player, man. I love to see him on the field, but that's a double wombo combo. You know what I'm saying? Like for them, that's just bad. So Buffalo gonna have to dig deep and find some players, man, on that defensive side of the ball. Because I thought up for a good while they were one of the best defenses in the league, but that's two big losses. You got Nick Chubb, man, for the Browns. The Nick Chubb injury hurts everybody because Nick Chubb is, as I told you, I thought he was the best back in the league. Like at this point, Nick Chubb was just like he was holding it down. The Browns losing him is rough, man. Like he was the driving force of that offense, and we know the Browns can already run the ball, but as you can see, the backup isn't as effective. Like he's still leaving yards on the field that Nick Chubb wouldn't leave on the field, and he's just a workhorse. He's dependable, and then he hurt a knee that he already had hurt in college, and it was just like, man, this might suck for him. But Nick Chubb, man, we wish him a speedy recovery. He's a running back, so that's even worse because they already don't respect running backs anyway. So I mean, like, dang, man, I'm hoping and praying Nick Chubb can get back, but the Browns look like they're still trying to figure it out. I just think down the road, when it's cold outside and you got to run that football, we're gonna see what kind of team they look like because their defense looks legit. They look like they got a good defense and they can do what they need to do. So with that being said, man, I think that's going to be a rough one down the stretch because they might need him. But I think the report said that his knee injury wasn't as bad as we initially thought. So we just hoping he can get back. But we also don't want him to rush back, man, because I think he still got some years in this league as a premier back. And so hopefully he can do it, man, because I would love to see another running back in this day and age put together a Hall of Fame career, like from in the times we living in now, from 2020. Like I said, Derrick Henry is one that comes to mind, but I would like to see that. So this is a big one. Justin Jefferson for the Vikings. So Justin Jefferson, I think they placed him on IR. They placed him on IR. That I know. And so that's gonna be a while. But the Vikings already having a bad record and trying to get out of that, it almost might be one of them situations where, you know, he really can take his time to come back, because now they're gonna have to win some big games so that when he gets back, you got games worth playing for him to really sacrifice himself. Like, it wouldn't be no need, because Justin Jefferson is he is, as of right now, the best receiver in the league up until his injury. In my book, personally, um, he could do it all, and we knew like they were force feeding him. They were trying to give him the ball by any means necessary, and so for him, man, um, I hope the injury isn't too bad, but that can really derail the Vikings, because that was something that they were heavily dependent on him, as far as like getting him the ball. So I think that's something that you got to watch out for. But those are just a couple of major injuries, man. Y'all let me know in the comments any other big injuries that y'all want me to talk about, because I can't really talk about it. We can get into the weeds of how those injuries affect the team, right? And people having to move up a roster spot, right? Like losing Justin Jefferson means your number 2 receiver goes to number 1, and your number 2 receiver right now currently is a rookie. So now he might get the double team. So now that whole thing looks different. You know what I'm saying? So look, let me shout out a couple teams, man, on this pod. Because we got to do it, because that's what we do. Lions, Bucks, Seahawks. That's 3 teams we got to shout out. First and foremost, the Bucks. Let's give them 3. The Bucks look good. The Bucks are playing good football. The Bucks are winning games that they're supposed to win, and they are sitting at 3-1. The Bucks are doing what they need to do. Shout out to Baker, because Baker is holding it down. Everybody doubted Baker, but now that Baker's in a situation where he got receivers, he get the players game. No, that doesn't make Baker the best quarterback, one of the top 5. We're not saying all that, but it shows that he can be a good quarterback in this league. He got a Mike Evans to throw the ball to now. Like, he got a pretty decent O-line where he not running for his life on every single play. You know what I'm saying? So now Baker looking good, and Buccaneers defense is standing up, even though people had kind of started to kind of weigh in on them. They were like, "Oh, that's not going to be the same Buccaneers defense, man." But they showing that they are a good defense in the league. You don't got to be the best defense in the league every time. You just got to have a middle of the pack offense, middle of the pack defense. You can win games because either side can pick up the slack when the other side don't got it that day. When you have teams that's too defense heavy or too offense heavy, now that one side of the ball got to be that elite to hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are doing their thing. Seahawks are showing up. I personally, the Seahawks have shut me up. I thought they were going to be a team that, yeah, they won a good bit of games last year, but they're not going to do it again this year. But they are showing that they are still a team to be reckoned with. They still got weapons. They got Kenneth Walker in the backfield. Defensively, they picked up Devin Witherspoon to go on the other side of Tariq Woolen. So now now you got 2 corners, right, that can make a play. Because like, I'm a big fan of Devin Witherspoon. I was a big fan when they got him. So I think they can be a team all the way around. Shout out to Pete Carroll, man. People was talking trash about his coaching, thinking, all right, man, the Legion of Boom going, he can't do nothing. But as you can see, he keeps filtering people in and still are having these players play great. Bobby went back, because he's back where he belongs. I'm happy to see Bobby back in Seattle. He needs to retire there. Bobby been playing some good football. You got him in the middle. So shout out to Seattle, man. All the way around, they look like a good football team. They can make some noise. And when you say a good football team, we're talking about teams that can, once they get in the playoffs, they got a chance to be anybody. Because at that point, it's any given Sunday, right? They're in the playoffs, and they're a team in it. Like, if you're gonna beat them, you gotta go beat them. And don't let them have home field advantage, especially not Seattle. Now, shout out to the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions is a team that a lot of us thought, hey, they're gonna be good based on the way they ended last season, what they added, you know what I'm saying, like what they gonna look like going forward. But you still gotta go out there and play, right? Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You could be on Madden and be like, boy, I got this, my team good, boy. I'm about to simulate the whole season. Next thing you know, your team end up 2 and something, 3 and something. Now you blow. Man, what happened, man? I got this person, I got that player, I got that player. Because what Madden trying to tell you is the players still got to go out there and play. You can have all these stars, but they got to go out there and execute and play. And the Lions have been executing to a pretty high level. Now, in my opinion, they've had games where the score sometimes looks better than what they've been playing, and the score also has looked worse than what they've been playing. But they're doing what it takes to win the games, and that's all that matters. Once you get on a winning streak, those wins count, because at the end of the day, you're winning your division. You're trying to get home field. You're trying to get home field in the playoffs, and right now, it's only 2 other teams that are undefeated. So you're really 1 game behind either of these teams. So if Philadelphia or San Fran lose at any point in time, which we don't expect them to go undefeated, especially, you got division games, they have to play a division game. With all that in mind, being a 1-loss team, keeping yourself in that hunt, keeping it close, because you never know what can happen. I think they are a good team. I think their defense is figuring it out. I think they're figuring it out on defense. I think they're developing a pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson, who I love. He has a great motor. I love pass rushes with a great motor, because they keep going, they keep coming. Like, we coming. And so I think those 3 teams, man, need to be shout out. Big shout outs, man, from going for the gusto, man. Big shout outs to these 3 teams that it's early in the season, but they're playing good football and they deserve to be talked about. And since I know ESPN ain't gonna do it, and all these other channels ain't gonna do it, I'm gonna shout out those teams, because those teams are playing good football, so they need to be talked about. So that's really all I got for y'all, man. This has been going for the gusto, man. I gotta try to get on here and get a college football episode out, because college football done got me upset. But with that being said, I gotta get back on here. I gotta get an episode out soon, man. So y'all tune in, man. Y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all let me know about just what y'all think about the Hall of Fame. I know that's a big conversation that we can have. You know what I'm saying? And then these injuries, how the injuries are piling up. Y'all thoughts on that? And yeah, man, y'all just tune in with us, man. This has been going for the gusto, man. It's your boy. I'm gone.